Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Today I've got to change the water for the Disas, so I thought we'd have a brief look as to how they're doing and basically the process. I mean, this is a once a week, as it happens it's 9 days since I did it, but I go along the lines that the guy said do it weekly and you'll be fine, but he uses rainwater collected on roofs and that goes into barrels, and in reality that water is not clean. Yeah, it's not pure. Rainwater isn't pure anyway, and once it's been on roofs and collected in a barrel and stored for any length of time, it's just not pure. Whereas my RO water is. Yeah, that's stored in clean containers that have only ever had RO water in them. And out of the light, and it's good, it's very good water, so I'm assuming that it can go a bit longer than the rainwater could before it starts to stagnate effectively. That's what's happening to water when it's left like that. So basically the principle is to get the pots out of the trays with the water in, then get the water out of the trays, and then put the pots back in the trays, or an alternative tray in one case, and then fill the water up so that the trays are not carried with water in them. I'll just tip, if I do the small one first, we'll have a quick look at the plants at the same time, but I'll just put that down there. So I'm stood in the way, I can't, yeah, I think that's about right. And what I do is I get these are the empty trays, yeah, and they're in a three clumped together, so they'll take weight without bending or cracking. There is bending involved, but that's tough. I have to do that. And then it's just a matter of lifting the pots out. I try and keep them in the same order they're in. There was some logic when I did it, although I've completely forgotten what it was. So we just lift these out, and individually the plants aren't heavy. And this is the plant that got, this is the one that got messed up when it fell out of the tray. I'm not sure there's anything left alive in that pot, which is a shame. And then the last one. And now effectively I've got a tray full of pots without any water in. And I can bring those up here. Just twist the camera around again. I presume that I'll still be able to see them. Whoops. Yeah, back of the tripod's hit up against the door frame. Yeah, there we go. And then all I do basically is just look for any dead leaves that will just pull off. Disas do die back, you know, anything that's flowered effectively completely dies. And it's just a matter of keeping the pot, as well as the plot, keeping the pot clear of anything that's rotting, because it can set rot off in the things next to it. So I just have a pick around dead bits, and sometimes it's the whole plant that comes out because it's died back. This one here is a flowered shoot. I'll give it a tug. No, it's not ready to come out yet, so we'll leave it. That's a dead leaf that's on it, so it will come out eventually. And again on here there are flowered plants that will die back. So we've got one pot that's possibly failed. What was it? It was 12 heads, the yellow group. It's a shame, they were quite nice, delicate little flowers. And this is 12 groups, no, this is Uniflora. That's the 12 groups, the white one. That fell out of its pot, but it went back in quite easily because it remained intact. It didn't all fall apart. This one fell apart. So there we go, and now the same principle applies to the big tray. What we've got now is a tray full of water, and I need to get that water out. And the easiest way to get it out is to tip it straight into a container without carrying it anywhere else. Now that will go out to the kitchen sink and have a quick scrub just to make sure it's clean, and if there is any signs of algae forming it will get cleaned up. and you didn't see that because I forgot to move the camera. I am a dummy sometimes, but you know, I'm doing things in lots of places. So this tray, I've just emptied the water out into one of my glass bowls like this one, the other one. This will have a wash, and once it's clean, the pots will go back in it, and I will then fill it up with water in situ, so that the tray with water in is never carried more than it takes to lift it and pour it into a container. So this is the same principle with the big one. I'm going to run out of room soon, so you can appreciate the principle, and this has to be done every sort of 9 or 10 days. Come the summertime when it's warmer in here, the water may evaporate up through the pots at a faster rate. They can be topped up halfway. Yeah, there's still no need to change the water any more frequently than that. The Disa man, John, I will have to see or send an email. I'm hoping to see him. He should be, the Devon Orchid Society autumn show is coming up, not this weekend, which is our show, Wessex, but the following weekend at Burnham's, which I will be going to on the Sunday. And Cornwall Orchid Society, which he's a member of, are going to be there with a display. Now, if his speciality is Disas and he hasn't got any other orchids, then he won't have any Disas in bloom at this time of year. It's not their time. They're spring and summer bloomers mainly. So, but I'm hoping he'll still be there, as his Orchid Society is there. And the thing I want to ask him is, I asked about feeding, and he said they get a very, very light feed about 3 times a year. Well, I would say that would be when they're at their peak growing time, which is as the day lengths get up to their sort of full day length next year. So probably end of April, something like that, when they'll come back into full growth. But I need to check with him how he feeds. Does he pour the feed in the top of the pot, or does he put it in his water tray and let them soak it up? And if so, how long does he leave it there? Just for one water change? That would seem reasonable to me. But it would be nice to check with somebody who grows these well. And if I've got the opportunity, if I don't see him at that show, then I will send him an email. So yeah, so we've got this process going on of picking out dead bits, making sure plants are not left rotting in the pot, because stuff can go on underground that you can't even see if you leave things to rot down. And so far, as the flowered plants have actually died back, they've just lifted out of the pot. So I'm happy with that. Bearing in mind everything's been repotted now. So yes, so I'll give this a wash, transfer those back into the clean pot, then top it up with water. That's the easy one because there's only 6 pots in there. The next one's got 20 pots in and is incredibly heavy. And even the spare tray, when the 20 pots are lifted out and put in that spare tray, that tray's still heavy, and that's with no water in it. And then I can't lift that tray to pour the water out. I have to get a jug and, you know, literally take it out a jug at a time until it's light enough to be able to lift and pour the water out. And then again, we'll give it a clean up and we'll have a look over the plants as we put them back in. But it's the same principle, and that's what I do. And these are effectively pots of grass until next year, when we start hopefully seeing some flower spikes. Well, we will see some flower spikes. How many remains to be seen, but we will see some. There's no way I've got this amount of Disas and none of them are going to flower. They should do reasonably well. And then we've got some nice fresh Disa blooms, at which point I can actually find out how long they last. Because I didn't find that out this year. They were all in bloom when I got them, and some of them lasted a very long time from that point. Now I don't know whether they'd only just opened those buds into blooms or whether they'd been opened 2 or 3 weeks prior. to me getting hold of them. I don't know, but next year we find out, are these long lasting blooms, and if so, which are the best ones, which ones last the longest. But unfortunately, as far as getting my Disas to a show is concerned, it's not going to happen. Because our spring show is in March, there won't be any in bloom in March, and then our autumn show is now, October, and they've all finished blooming. So they're not an ideal plant to have if you like showing your plants, unless you've got shows that you can get to in the middle of the season. But I haven't. So anyway, so that's that. It's just a quick look at what the maintenance of these Disas is for me. Phone making noises there. So I've just spotted legs, and it's a woodlouse, which we can do without. They don't really do any harm, but I don't want any form of bugs if I can help it. There are some little white flies on these Disas. They're tiny, absolutely minute, and I sprayed the whole lot with the systemic. So in theory all that's left is bodies, because these are so tiny there's no way they would resist that systemic. You know, if that systemic can take out the large aphids, the mealybugs and the scale, it's not going to have any trouble with whatever these are. They're probably some sort of aphid, I suppose. Whitefly, something like that. But they're tiny, tiny little white dots. And as long as they stay as tiny little white dots, I don't mind, you know, because they'll be manageable. And you know, every time I get near the plants, if I see any, I just wipe them off, squish them in my fingers, as I do with mealybugs. You know, that's a good way to get rid of them. There's where this lot fell out, there's quite a few of the plants have actually got little bits of perlite or bits of peat in their crown. So I'm just sort of tidying them up. As I said, you know, this tray was upside down. It threw all of the pots out on the floor, and this one came right out of its pot, but it went back in, and that one came right out of its pot and doesn't look like it's going to be successful. I don't think there's anything alive in that pot. It wasn't very good anyway. That was a very weak one, and it looks like it may have been lost. So be it, you know. As I said, as part of the exercise of getting some Disas, I've ended up with 11 different types. There's only 1, 2, 3 species in there, but I've ended up with 11 different types of Disa in a very short space of time, so that's good. And I'll always keep my eye out for more, but I would be more selective now, because some of these that I've got, I didn't get to choose. I said to the guy, you know, he was selling them for a set price. I knew that there would be a pot full, because I'd already seen how they looked at Burnham's where I got my first couple, and so I knew roughly that I was going to get more than one plant. I was going to get quite a few plants in a litre pot, so I arranged to buy 6, but he bought a lot more along than 6. So although I only bought and paid for 6, I got quite a lot more pots than that. So as I said, I got 2 from Burnham's, and I've got 11 different ones. So he bought me 9 different Disas when I paid for 6, so I was well pleased. Anyway, that's a sort of look at the process of keeping these in order. Yeah, it's relatively straightforward. The difficult bit is he, along with some other Disa growers, have said they do best in peat and perlite. And a lot of people object straight away on the grounds that I'm using real peat, because it's not sustainable, not as such, and we're not supposed to be using it. But there are certain things, carnivorous plants, certainly these Disas and some other plant types, that if they don't get planted in peat, they don't do very well at all, and those plants could be lost in cultivation as a consequence. So when you think about these conservation issues and things, there are other things to consider apart from the habitat in the wild, you know. So anyway, the bale of peat that I bought will last longer than I will live, so I'm not going to ever run out again, and that peat was already harvested and baled up. Yeah, well, not buying it is just wasteful. That to me is stupid. If you want to conserve the habitats, then stop harvesting it. But that's no reason to stop selling what's already harvested. That's a waste. That's like having a plate full of beef and not eating it. The cow's already dead. The least you can do is eat it. Use it up, not waste stuff. So anyway, I've got the rest of this work to do, and it's been raining on and off today. I've been doing health things today. I had to go and pick up my prescription to get some more tablets. I was getting a bit low. It's quite easy. I ordered them online as a repeat prescription. As long as I do it reasonable amount in advance. They're ready at the chemist when I go there, pharmacy, all ready to go. They send me a text saying your prescription is ready, and I pop in when I'm passing basically. And I went to the surgery to book my blood test, which I've been asked to do, and it's closed. So the one just round the corner is now no more. It has ceased to be. The other two that I can go to, the three are a set, you know, well, a set basically. The other two are right next door to each other. They share the same car park, and they're about 1.25 miles away. I'm not going to walk it because it involves crossing the dual carriageway, but that's where I have to go now, as this one is closed. And I booked my blood test. I filled in the online form about all the questions about my health and everything like that. The only thing I haven't filled in accurately is my weight, because I'm using my own scales and they're not accurate. They're out. I know they're wrong, but I'm using them to monitor the fact that I am losing weight. How much isn't relevant to me. I just need to know it's going down on a steady basis, which it is. So I've guessed it basically. Tough. Yeah, so if a GP will review my form and my questions and my answers and everything, they will decide whether I need a face-to-face appointment to discuss things, but part of that is the results of the blood test. So we've got to get that done. That's booked for the 22nd of October, so not very long to wait really. And yeah, we'll get that done. And this is part of a review of the consequences of my diagnosis basically. So it's a follow-on, you could call it, which is good because they prompted it. I didn't have to say, when are you going to look into my health again? They've done it automatically, so that's good. Pleased with that. And I shall get on with my work because this rain's making a lot of noise now. So anyway, I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.